Firstly, thank you to Dyslexia Ireland for giving me the opportunity to speak and to talk about my dyslexia, my struggles, and my research that I've undertaken recently. I suppose a bit of background, go through past journey of where I've come from and my dyslexia and how I feel it's affected me. And then into, my progression through my career, where it's led me. Um, just talking about my third level education and a dissertation that I've recently finished about dyslexia in the construction industry. So for me, 45 years of age, um, like anyone, I suppose, around my age or that, you know, dyslexia in school, primary school and secondary school, what seems a long time ago, was a different time, I'd like to believe, than it is now, or I'd hope it's different now than it was. For me, primary school was a challenge. School in general was a big challenge. And I feel very little was ever known about dyslexia back then or understood properly. And the supports, although were starting to come in, I don't feel we're really, I suppose, there yet. Wasn't properly understood. So for me, there was struggles, daily struggles with education, and it carried right through for secondary school as well. Um, I was lucky in some ways that by the time I got to about sixth class, I ended up having a exemption for Irish, which it gave, a huge help because Irish was a struggle. It was never really something I enjoyed, couldn't grasp, and part of me couldn't understand why I needed to learn it when I was struggling so badly with everything else. So as I moved on, I went into secondary school. That exemption carried, and my parents, pressured the school to make sure I didn't have to do it, I suppose. And they offered the supports they could, as every parent would, to support their child, to help them in the areas that they needed. Uh, Although the schools did offer some supports, like extra class or taken out for special English, as it was called, um, you know, for an assessment. I didn't have one when it was back at that level in school. Um, there was one my parents say was offered, but it was, a train and two bus journeys away. So just wasn't possible at the time. So it was what it was, and we dealt with the cards we were dealt. But I suppose by the time I got to third year, the secondary school said that I had to sit Irish as part of the state exams. So that was a difficult time, having not done it for a few years, to then all of a sudden being told, no, you have to go and do it for your junior cert. As you can imagine, I don't think it went very well from memory, but I got through junior cert and moved on. Then we went on fifth, sixth year, was able to do different subjects, which I enjoyed that aspect of secondary school, that you could pick different subjects and different ones that you enjoy and had a better connection with. Um, Construction studies and engineering were ones that I preferred. They were more the practical side of things, and you were able to make different things. It wasn't just reading and writing. You could physically see what you were doing, and it was easier explained to me. From those two subjects alone, I actually went on to do honours in both of them and received an honours grade in both of them, which I was delighted about. But everything else, English was ordinary or foundation, maths was foundation, and Irish was foundation, and I scraped the pass. But that's all it was. I just scraped it. So it got me through. I just had the leaving cert and passed it and moved on. And then all of a sudden I was out of education. And I suppose, into the real world of working. I was never going to go to college. It wasn't really an option for me. School was a struggle, so I wasn't going to go on to third level education at that stage. So lucky enough, my father knew somebody in a joinery shop, and I got a job there, and they put me through an apprenticeship, which was great and stood to me and stands to me to this day. I qualified in that. I was about 21 years of age when I qualified. Being that, then I stayed in the joinery for 7, 8 years, I think, in total, and kind of got to a point in life where I needed something different. So I took a leap again, and I moved jobs, and I went to a construction company who specialized in clean room fit outs and office fit outs. It was a big change, never knowing, didn't even know what a clean room actually was at that stage in life. But 19 years of service with that company, doing various tasks over the years, I progressed through the company. Looking back on it, it was a slow progression. I had a wished back then or now that it had been quicker. But I learned a lot from it. But my dyslexia did hold me back. It did restrict me in ways. It did restrict my career. It made me nervous of change, always doubting myself that I could ever do anything else, that I was stuck in the role I was in, and that was it. So slowly moved up from working on the tools to different aspects, foreman, site management, um, where then I had a team of people working under me. But my dyslexia, I suppose, came more to the forefront at that stage because I was more emails and planning works and schedules and a lot more computer based, than working with the client on their needs and to get works and scheduling works for stuff that they needed. So the dyslexia did hamper me in a way that I suppose, maybe compared to someone who doesn't have dyslexia, I felt it took me longer to get stuff done, to write down emails, correspondence with the clients. I was very conscious and very critical of what I'd write. So it always had an impact on me. That I did feel did slow me down. And it was only later in life around now that I look back and I go, you know, what if the supports might have been there from the company? But what if I actually ever told anyone? I never did, that I was struggling with certain aspects, because you have a fear that it will impact your job and layoffs come around, and it could be used against you. So you stay quiet, you don't say anything, and you learn to cope, you learn to manage with it. And the coping mechanisms after a while just become second nature, and you learn to deal with it. So after, as I say, a long time with that company, I decided that I needed to move. I needed to make a change. So as part of that change, I said to myself, okay, well, if I'm going to make a move from the company, I wanted to go back to college. I wanted to do something that, for me, that I never thought was possible, um, that I didn't think I was ever really, I suppose, able to do. But that was the time to do it. And the company I moved to first were supportive of it. And I decided to go and have a look at an honours degree in project management through Sligo ATU. It was purely online based, which I thought probably suited me more. I was working full time still, so it gave me that opportunity to still work and yet try and get an education from it as well. With that, I suppose I decided to move jobs again, um, to my current position that I'm in. And a lot of movement and a lot of daunting changes were happening while I was actually still in third level education. But it also made me realize that although I have dyslexia and it has its impacts and it has its effects on me, I was still able to do my job and I was still able to progress. So it gave me that bit of confidence as well. My dyslexia affects me, I suppose, with my more so around spelling, um, structuring sentences in a way, grammar, up until recently, where to put simple things like a simple comma and finishing sentences, I would have really struggled with. Um, so then, first year of college, I was doing assignments, exams, writing 4 or 5 thousand word assignments was something that was completely alien to me, and I never thought anything of how I'd be able to do it. Didn't know how to structure, paragraphs, uh, what they were looking for, what I really needed to put into it. Some of the lectures were excellent. Really gave good guidance on how to form these assignments and how to go about it, which really did help. And while doing that journey, the grades or the feedback that I was getting from certain lecturers was in some ways mind blowing to me. It was so positive. The grades I was getting back were grades that I could only have ever imagined that I'd achieve. To get 70s, 80s and up was something that I never thought possible. Looking back on school days, I thought there's no way I would be here, 20 years later, or more. So it really did help. It really did give me the confidence to keep pushing on and keep driving on with the education that I was doing. As I say, it was a 2-year course. So as part of that, we were coming up to exam time, which I was stressing about and worried about how am I going to sit an exam? How am I going to retain enough information to write down in 2.5 hours? So it was big worries, anxiety, was really kicking in. The college offered exemptions for exams, which I applied for, but as part of that, they put me through an assessment for dyslexia because I'd never done it before. So at the age of 44, then I was had an assessment done and got back with a piece of paper as an assessment to say you have dyslexia. So something I've known all my life was there, talked about a bit amongst family, but to get that piece of paper to say, you know, you have dyslexia, it was a massive weight off my shoulders, a relief. Um, the assessment itself was difficult at times, just even emotionally. It was a roller coaster of trying to get through an assessment, and it really brought to light my struggles more so because I've never looked at them in that sense and faced them head on. So with that, the assessment was done, and I moved into second year in college. As it being my final year, we had a dissertation to write for it. So this was, 15, 20,000 word uh, paper, which was something that God never, ever thought I would be near. I always remember the lecturer or the coordinator had said, pick a topic that you really enjoy because it's going to be a long journey, a lot of hours into it, a lot of sleepless nights, and it will take its toll. So I was tossing and turning between different topics from AI to BIM, things like that. And then I thought to myself, going, actually, what I'd have an interest in is dyslexia, but also dyslexia in the construction industry, which isn't talked about. It's never really mentioned, and I'd feel there's a big stigma around it on sites. There's always that, slagging and banter and laughter on a construction site. So you tend to hide the things that are personal to you. You tend not to share. So sharing that you have dyslexia is not something that I felt I could ever do. And I'll always remember that when I was 25, there was a safety course on, and the fella who was giving the talk was probably in a room with 50, 60 other men, and construction is predominantly male based. And he stands at the top of the class and he was, about to start and he was putting the slides up and he said to all of us sitting there that if I happen to mess up or say a word wrong, that don't get on to me because it's my dyslexia. And it still sticks to me this day that someone had the courage to say and openly say in front of a crowd that he didn't know anybody, to be able to say, I have dyslexia. And over the years, I always remember it and I always return back to it to think that he had the courage to say it. So why don't more of us have that courage? So as part of the dissertation, I wanted to understand, do individuals go into the construction industry because of their dyslexia? Is it a key factor that drives someone to go into a trade background? For me, it was. I didn't have the educational side of it to go on and do college. I didn't think I was able to do it. So naturally, I just fell into construction and I stayed there. I suppose from the research, some of the key findings, I suppose, that came out of it were around the prevalence of dyslexia, something I didn't really know. They said 1 in 10 people uh, have dyslexia. Basing that then onto the construction industry, there's approximately 170 something thousand individuals work within the sector. And if you take that 1 in 10, then that's 17,000 individuals potentially have dyslexia. And when you look at the construction industry, you think of, the noise, the dirt, the dust of the industry. You don't see that there is also, a the writing side to it, that there's quantity surveyors and there's managers and there's project managers. There's other roles there that aren't just the hands-on labor part of construction. And for me, my progression was slow because I struggled with my dyslexia and my fear of people finding out about my dyslexia and that it might impact my career. So was there other people out there the same? And do they struggle in ways? And is it holding them back from progressing their career in some aspects that they want to move and they want to progress? And, if they're happy where they are, that's fine. But what it did find was that, the stigma around dyslexia is still there, and from the research that I've done and the questionnaires that I put out, that people did feel that there was still a stigma around it, but also self-stigma was probably greater. Um, the disclosure around your dyslexia for me, when I changed jobs, when I knew I had dyslexia from the bit of paper, I didn't hide it in an interview. I said, by the way, I have dyslexia. I've only been recently assessed, but it's not going to slow me down in my job. So lucky for me that the interview went well and I got the position. But also from the research, it did highlight that people wouldn't disclose the dyslexia. And some people who had noted in it that they didn't have it feel that an individual shouldn't disclose the dyslexia because it might impact their job. And I don't think that's right. I think we need to be more open about it. We need to raise the awareness about it, and we need to let people know that the skills that dyslexic individual has, the abilities that they have, and although, as I only recently found out doing this research, that it's classed as a disability, it's not. it's good that it's classed as a disability because it gives you certain rec assistance that you need within your job. But if you look at it as a difference, we are different. We see differently and we think differently and we act differently, which is a huge positive. I don't want to be like anybody else. I am different to other people, and I've now embraced it and taken it on board. And with the research that I have, I've found that, there is strengths that dyslexic individuals have that employers and companies do actively seek and take on board the abilities that dyslexic individuals have. I suppose to where I see myself and I see hopefully, this research and being given the platform now to speak about, I would love to see companies taking this on board, construction companies taking this on board, looking at their employees and seeing, is there supports that we need to give to individuals? Do we need to make them aware that the support is there and that they don't need to fear, coming forward and asking for assistance, that it will be provided, and that there's certain jobs out there that a dyslexic individual could use as a benefit to the company, and the company do better from it and learn from it and gain a stronger and better workforce. Um, the company that I am currently with take it on board and look at it. And my manager is actively, going to try and help drive the message out there amongst the company that I work for, but also other companies, and try and get the word to people to say that dyslexia is there. Don't be ashamed by it. Don't be embarrassed by it, but share it. And from my research that I've done, I've learned so much more and have had people come up to me and say, God, I didn't know you had dyslexia, but I've never told anybody. I hid it. So they had no need to know. I had coping mechanisms for it and I've managed it and ways of hiding it. And yes, there's certain aspects of my job would take me 5, 6 times longer than somebody else who doesn't struggle in the same way, but I can still do it and I can still get it done. And it's my challenge to work harder, and it pushes me harder and further to keep going with it. I'd love to see aspects of my research now done that by no means are perfect. And I'm sure somebody could read it and criticize what I've written and what I've done. But for me, it's a huge goal. What was a massive roller coaster of emotions, from huge highs to huge lows, to get, 17, 18,000 words written down on a page that hopefully portrays across the message that people need. And if somebody from my research comes out and goes and seeks to help, and companies put out there the supports that are needed, and if it helps one or two people, well, then for me, that's brilliant. It's really achieved what I wanted it to achieve in all this and get the message out there. That I think on construction sites, we need more awareness. We need, during Dyslexia Month, that we need to have a day or a week on sites that's to raise the awareness of dyslexia and what it is. That some people mightn't even know they struggle in that way, and they're missing out on opportunities that are out there for them. I suppose I'd like to conclude with it. I would like to thank Dyslexia Ireland for some of the supports that they've provided me over the time, and this platform to get my voice out there and raise the awareness of dyslexia in the construction industry. I think it's hugely beneficial to everybody to have your voice heard. um, the struggles that individuals face, the anxiety around somebody finding out about their dyslexia, the the mental health impacts that it has, the impacts it can have on your family, your close family and friends around you, that your struggles do get portrayed onto your family and it does have a negative impact. For me, the 2 years of back in college were a huge impact and a strain on my family. You know, for the 2 years, I struggled back and forth to get stuff done, meet the deadlines. My wife proofread numerous papers that I wrote on stuff that she'd no interest in and probably didn't grasp what any of it was all about, no more than I did. My kids probably didn't see me for the best part of the 2 years because I had my head, either stayed in work for extra hours to get stuff done, or I was sitting down at the desk, stuck down the shed, trying to get deadlines met up until all hours, 12, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, just trying to meet deadlines. So I think a lot of it needs to be raised around the awareness of it, and by having this platform, um, and there's one person that, you know, really had an impact on me, and that was Dr. Keith Murphy. Had a massive impact on me choosing, uh, not even choosing, I suppose, but sticking with my chosen topic. The individuals in the college didn't really want me to choose it, for whatever reasons, but it had never been done before, and I was given a couple of ultimatums of different topics, defer the year, or provide enough information to prove that I could do this topic, and there was enough information out there. And having talked to Keith, he gave me that confidence and that courage to push on with it, and really did help having that support there. And simple things like don't give up on it, because although it's never been done, somebody has to do it first. And I'm glad now, looking back on it and the 2 years that I've spent, that I did push on with it. I did persevere, and I now have my dissertation done. I've my exams all done, assignments done, and I passed my degree. And I passed it higher than I ever thought I would. And to come out with that, and graduation now coming up shortly, and to stand with, you know, my colleagues from college, have friends made out of it, and to graduate with them on the day is something I never thought would happen. And for my own two children that I have, that it shows that persevere and the hard work does pay off. But you need to be mindful of the impact it can have on yourself emotionally, mentally, and everything that goes with it. That it is a struggle, but you can get through it. But we do need the supports, and the likes of Keith and people that I worked with did give me that support and did help, and the confidence to keep driving on with it. But again, it was raising the awareness around it. And by me speaking about it, only that got me the supports. If I had stayed quiet and had said nothing, well, then I wouldn't have got it, and I would have struggled a whole lot more than I actually did. So, but to end on, I would like to thank, a lot of people that have helped. I hope that this is not the end for me on this journey of dyslexia in construction. I would love to take it further, and I hope that people do take it on board and do drive the word out there, and somebody gets the benefit from it. That's all we can ever really hope, is that someone else is able to learn from it, take it, and take what I have, and take it even further as well. So say thank you to Dyslexia Ireland again. Appreciate your time, and thank you all.